I thought exploring that abandoned house would give me a story to tell. I never imagined something inside would follow me home. My name is Ray. I'm 61 years old, retired now, and I've lived in the same stretch of rural Tennessee my whole life. I'm not the kind of man who scares easy. I've hunted these hills since I was 9. I've walked dark fields at 3 in the morning without a flashlight and never thought twice about it. I tell you that so you understand. What happened to me 2 summers ago wasn't the imagination of a nervous person. It was real. And there are nights, even now, when I wish to God it wasn't. The house had been sitting empty on Old Mill Road for as long as anyone could remember. Locals called it the Hargrove Place, after the family that supposedly built it sometime in the 1890s. Nobody knew what happened to them. That's the thing about old houses in small towns. They absorb their secrets. You drive past them for 40 years and eventually stop wondering. But my granddaughter had started asking about our family history, doing one of those genealogy projects for school. And somewhere in a box of my mother's old papers, I found a deed, our family's name on a parcel of land that matched the address of that abandoned house on Old Mill Road. That was enough reason for me to go. I went on a Tuesday afternoon in July, broad daylight. I brought my camera, thinking I'd take some photographs, maybe find something useful for the family tree. A real horror experience, I figured, would be the heat and the mosquitoes. I was wrong about that. The road leading up to the property hadn't been paved in decades. Gravel and weeds and a rusted iron gate hanging half open, like it had given up trying to keep people out. I pushed through. The grass was knee-high on both sides. Cicadas screamed in the tree line. Then, about 20 feet from the porch, they stopped. All at once. Complete silence. I paused, told myself it was nothing. Heat plays tricks. I kept walking. The porch boards groaned under my weight in a way that made me slow down and test each step before committing to it. The front door wasn't locked. It wasn't even fully closed. It swung inward on its own when I touched the frame, like the house was exhaling. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of old wood and something faintly metallic I couldn't identify. Dust lay over everything like a gray snow, on the mantel, the broken furniture, the collapsed staircase to my left. My footprints appeared behind me as I walked, dark impressions in that pale gray dust. And that's when I noticed the other footprints. They came from the back hallway, small, narrow, like a child's bare feet. They moved toward the center of the room and simply stopped. No return path, no trail leading back out, just prints that began somewhere I couldn't see and ended in the middle of the floor. I stood there for a long moment. Animals, I told myself. The floor is uneven. It's a trick of the light. I kept moving. The back parlor still had furniture, a settee with the stuffing rotted through, a side table, and in the corner, an old rocking chair facing the window. I lifted my camera, framed the shot, and as I looked through the viewfinder, the chair moved. Not much, just a slow, almost lazy rock forward and back. Once, then still. There was no breeze. Every window in that room was sealed shut with age. I lowered the camera. My mouth had gone dry. Then, from somewhere above me, I heard it. A child laughing. One short burst of laughter, high and bright, like a little girl finding something funny. It came from directly overhead, the collapsed upper floor, and it did not repeat. I want to be honest with you. I almost left right then. My whole body was telling me to go, but I'm a stubborn man, and stubborn men don't always listen to their bodies. I told myself, old houses settle. Sound travels strangely. There could be kids playing outside, except I hadn't seen another house for 2 miles. I moved toward the back hallway. The walls were close on both sides, the wallpaper peeling in long, curling strips like dead skin. And that's when I heard my name. Just once, soft, from behind the wall to my left. Ray. Low and unhurried, like someone who knew I wasn't going anywhere. I stopped breathing. The cold hit me next. A pocket of air so frigid it felt like opening a freezer in a heat wave. Right there in that hallway in July. And in my peripheral vision, I caught a shadow moving at the far end of the hall, crossing from left to right, slow, deliberate, like it wanted me to see it. The locked door was at the end of that hallway. I don't know why I opened it. I truly don't, but my hand found the knob, and it turned, and the door swung open. The room was small, empty except for three things. A wooden chair, facing the corner, its back to me. On the floor, scratched directly into the floorboards, symbols I didn't recognize, crude, deep, like someone had used a knife and taken their time. And on the wall, a row of old family photographs, faded, water-stained, but faces still visible. I stepped closer, lifted my camera, and in the corner of my eye, I saw the chair was no longer empty. A figure sat with its back to me, still as stone. I hadn't heard it arrive, hadn't heard a single footstep. It was simply there, dark clothing, head bowed forward. I didn't speak. I couldn't. And then, slowly, so slowly it seemed almost polite, it turned its head. I ran. I don't remember the hallway. I don't remember the front room. I remember the porch and the high grass and the rusted gate and my truck door. And then I was driving with both hands white on the wheel, and I didn't stop until I hit the main road. But the footsteps, I heard them behind me the whole way out, on gravel that crunched under something with weight, right up to my truck door. Then nothing. I've never gone back. I've never told this story to more than 2 people. Not because I thought they wouldn't believe me, but because saying it out loud makes it real again in a way I don't like. That was 2 summers ago. Last spring, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, no postage, just my name written on the front in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single photograph, color, recent. I could tell by the quality. It showed the front of the Hargrove place on Old Mill Road, and standing in the upper window, looking down, was me. My face, my build, my posture, in a house I hadn't set foot in since that afternoon. I've spent a long time trying to explain that photograph. I've spent even longer trying to stop thinking about what was sitting in that chair. Maybe I escaped that house, but something inside never let me leave. If this story gave you chills, subscribe for more disturbing true horror stories every week. And tell me in the comments, would you have walked into that abandoned house?